Claire didn't expect the cabin to feel so heavy the moment she stepped inside, but it did. Maybe it was because she had driven for hours with one goal, finally getting distance from everything and everyone. The quiet lake outside looked peaceful, almost too peaceful, like it had been waiting for her to finally break down. She put her bag on the wooden floor, trying to push away the tight feeling in her chest. She told herself she needed this weekend alone to think, to breathe, and to understand the emotions she had been avoiding for months. The cabin smelled of pine and old memories. She had been here before, years ago, when life felt simple. Back. Then she came with Evan and Miotha, two people she had loved, like family. The two people she had trusted more than anyone else. She stopped herself from thinking about them now. She wanted silence, not reminders of where her heart had been hurt and where she had made mistakes she still didn't know how to fix. She went to the window, looking out at the wide lake and the tall trees bending in the wind. It should have been calming, but her mind kept racing. She came here to escape, but she still carried everything inside her. Then she heard something she wasn't prepared for. The sound of a car rolling over the gravel outside. Her heartbeat jumped. No one knew she was here. She slowly stepped closer to the window, peeking through the thin curtains. A dark SUV had pulled in. The doors opened. Two figures stepped out, and Claire's breath caught painfully in her throat. Evan, Mia, her closest friends. The people she had pushed away without even giving a full explanation. She froze, stunned. How did they find her? Why now? Why here? Before she could think, the cabin door opened. Mia stepped in first, brushing the cold air from her jacket. Her expression softened the moment she saw Claire. "Oh, thank God," she whispered, her voice trembling with relief. "Claire, you didn't answer any of our calls. We thought something had happened." Evan came in behind her, closing the door gently. His tall frame filled the space, and his calm presence, the one Claire once relied on more than she wanted to admit, pulled at something in her chest. "You disappeared," he said softly. "We were worried." Claire tried to hold her ground, but emotions she had buried rose too fast. "Came here to think," she said, her voice thin. Mia stepped forward, guilt and worry mixing in her eyes. "Then let us think with you." The words hit Claire harder than she expected. She had come here to be alone because she didn't think anyone cared anymore. She didn't think they had time for her pain. She had been afraid to be honest with them, afraid to be the one who needed too much. But seeing them now wet from the cold air, breathless from worry, she felt something twist inside her. Something she couldn't push down this time. She backed up until her shoulders touched the wall. "Why are you here?" she asked. Not angry, just confused. Evan stepped forward slowly, like he didn't want to scare her. "'Cause you shut us out and we didn't know how to reach you anymore." Mia nodded. "We knew you loved this cabin. So, we came here just hoping you'd be okay." Claire shook her head, eyes stinging. "I didn't ask you to come." Mia hesitated. "No, but you once asked us to come here before. That day you needed help. The day we didn't show up." The memory hit Claire so hard she had to breathe slowly to steady herself. That day, months ago, when she was overwhelmed, hurting, and scared to admit it, she had reached out to them. But they were busy. Life got in the way. And she convinced herself that asking people for support only led to disappointment. She convinced herself to stop needing anyone. Claire looked down. "I asked for you once, and you weren't there." Evan's face softened with regret. "We know, and we're sorry, truly." The cabin suddenly felt smaller, warmer, like their presence was changing the air around them. Claire didn't know what to feel. Relief, anger, hope, fear, everything mixed together. Until her thoughts tangled, she whispered, "I just didn't want to be a burden." Mia stepped closer. "You're not a burden, Claire. You never were." Evan nodded in agreement. "You don't have to do everything alone." For a moment, none of them spoke. The soft sound of the lake wind filled the quiet. Claire looked at the two people she had once trusted so deeply. They looked tired, worried, and sincere. She wasn't used to people fighting to stay in her life. She didn't know what to do. With the warmth their presence brought back into her chest, she took a slow breath and asked the question she had been too scared to voice until now. "So, you're here. For me?" Mia smiled sadly. "Always." Evan's voice was steady. "We don't want to lose you." Something inside Claire finally cracked, not in pain, but in understanding. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. Maybe she had tried too hard to run from people who were still willing to stay. But just as she felt herself soften, something unexpected happened outside. A loud crack echoed across the lake, the kind of sound that made all three of them look toward the window at once. And Claire knew the weekend was about to take a turn she never expected. The storm hit without warning. Rain pounded against the cabin windows, drumming in a way that made the walls seem alive. Thunder rolled across the lake, shaking the quiet air that had settled between Claire, Evan, and Mia. They had gathered in the living room. Blankets draped over their shoulders, huddled close, not for warmth alone, but because the storm left nothing else to do. The wind rattled the cabin, the lights flickered, and for the first time that weekend, Claire felt the weight of everything she had been. Holding in her chest, she looked at Mia, sitting across from her, hair slightly damp, eyes wide and sincere. And Evan, sitting quietly beside her, strong and calm as always, yet there was tension in his jaw that betrayed his worry. Claire felt the walls she had built around herself cracking. She wanted to run again, to disappear like she had before. But something about seeing them here, worried and steady, made her stop. She didn't know if she wanted to run this time. The conversation started slowly, almost hesitantly. Mia spoke first, voice low. "Claire, we didn't know how much you were hurting. You've been so distant. We thought you didn't want us around." Her words were gentle but raw, and Claire felt a lump form in her throat. She had hidden her pain so well, even from them. She had thought she could handle it alone, that needing anyone was weakness. But hearing those words made her realize just how much she had missed having them near. "I didn't want to bother anyone," Claire said, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to be a problem." The blanket slipped slightly from her shoulder, and she didn't bother adjusting it. She didn't care about appearances anymore. The storm, the thunder, the raw honesty of the moment, Tit made her feel exposed in a way she hadn't allowed herself in months. Vulnerable, but also alive. Evan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You're never a problem, Claire," he said quietly. "You think we don't notice when you pull away, but we do. And it hurts seeing you struggle alone." His words hit her in a place she had tried to ignore. She had assumed that asking for help was selfish. But here they were, proving her wrong. Proving that she wasn't alone even when she felt like she was. Mia reached across the small space between them and took Claire's hand. "You don't have to push us away. You don't have to do everything by yourself." Claire looked at their hands, the two people she had loved like family. The two people who had always been there in small, quiet ways, and for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this weekend wouldn't just be about escaping her past. Maybe it could be about healing with them beside her. They sat in silence for a few moments, listening to the storm. The fire crackled, filling the room with warmth that didn't come from the blankets or the heater. It came from the presence of people who cared enough to stay. Claire's chest ached with a mixture of relief and regret. Relief that they were here, regret for pushing them away for so long. Finally she spoke, barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to do this anymore. Talking to people, trusting people." Her eyes fell to her lap. "I've been running for months, and I'm tired." Mia squeezed her hand. "Then stop running. Let us in. Let us help you carry it." Evan nodded beside her, silent but steady, his hand hovering just above hers, as if waiting for permission to join in the small circle of trust. Claire felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She wasn't used to letting anyone see her like this, so fragile, so uncertain but the storm outside. The warmth inside, the soft voices of people who refused to give up on her, made it possible. For the first time that night, Claire felt herself relax, even a little. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees, trying to steady her shaking hands. "I don't know if I can," she admitted. "I don't know if I deserve help." "You do," Evan said, firm but kind. "We all do. You've been carrying this alone because you think it's what you should do. But you don't have to. None of us do." His words were simple, but they cut through months of self-doubt. He wasn't lecturing her. He wasn't pitying her. He was offering her the truth she had been too afraid to admit. She deserved support. She deserved care. She deserved to stop running. Mia leaned closer. "And we're here. We're not leaving. Not this time. We'll stay as long as you need us." Claire felt the words sink in, settling around her like a gentle embrace. It wasn't about romance. Not yet. It wasn't about dramatic confessions. It was about connection, about trust, about feeling safe enough to finally let someone see her fully. The fire crackled again, louder this time, and Claire realized she hadn't noticed the hours passing. The storm outside had begun to soften, the rain slowing to a light drizzle. She looked at Evan and Mia, both watching her with quiet patience. She wanted to reach for them both, not in a romantic way, but in a deeply human, heartfelt way. She wanted to say, "I'm ready to let you in," without fear, without hesitation. Her voice trembled as she finally whispered, "I don't want to keep running. I don't want to be alone anymore." Mia's smile was soft, almost tearful. "You won't have to be." Evan finally took her hand in his, gently, and for the first time in months, Claire felt the weight she had carried alone start to lift. She leaned slightly into the warmth of their presence, letting herself breathe, letting herself feel, letting herself hope. The storm had brought them together, not just in the cabin, but in a shared moment of honesty and care. And Claire knew, deep down, that this night would be the first step toward something she had almost forgotten existed. Trust, connection, and the simple, quiet comfort of people who refused to leave you behind. As the fire burned lower and the storm faded outside, Claire realized the weekend had already begun to change her. She had asked for support once and been disappointed, but now, this time, they were here. And she knew without a doubt that her heart wouldn't have to face the storm alone anymore. The storm had passed, leaving a calm silence over the lake. Morning sunlight reflected off the water, shimmering across the cabin and filling the room with warmth. Claire stepped outside, breathing in the crisp air, letting it wash over her like a promise of something new. She felt lighter but also nervous. Last night had been intense. Emotions had flown freely, unspoken truths had been revealed, and the tension she had carried for months had begun to ease. Yet she knew the real test hadn't arrived, yet was in the morning, when clarity returned, when honesty could no longer hide behind the shadows of night. As she walked along the wooden deck, she felt them coming up behind her. Evan's quiet steps and Mia's soft approach were familiar, grounding. She didn't have to turn to know they were there, but she did anyway. Seeing their faces in the gentle morning light made her chest tighten. They had stayed, like they said they would. They had chosen to be present, and that alone said more than any words could. "Claire," Mia said softly, breaking the silence. "What are you thinking about?" Claire exhaled slowly. Her eyes scanned the lake first, as if the vast, still water could hold her feelings until she found the words. "I've been thinking about last night, about everything I pushed away, about the times I ran, the times I pretended I didn't need anyone, and I realize I was wrong." She paused, swallowing hard. "I thought I had to do it all alone. I thought needing people made me weak, but I see now it only made me lonely." Evan stepped closer, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You're not weak, Claire. Needing someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. It makes you real." His voice was calm, unwavering. full of the kind of certainty she wished she could feel about herself. Claire turned to face them fully. Their presence, steady and supportive, reminded her of how much she had tried to shut out, how much she had feared dependence. But dependence wasn't weakness. It was connection. It was trust. It was love in the quiet, patient way they had shown. "I don't want to be alone anymore," Claire said, her voice firmer now, though her chest still ached with vulnerability. "I don't want to keep running. I want to let people in, and I want to let you in." Her words hung in the air, heavy with courage and fear alike. She glanced at Evan and Mia, searching for any hint of judgment. There was none, only understanding, only acceptance. Mia smiled, tears glistening at the corner of her eyes. "We're already in," she whispered. "We've been here, and we're not going anywhere." Her hand reached for Claire's, warm and reassuring. The contact was small but powerful. Claire felt the tension in her shoulders ease. The weight she had carried for months begin to lift. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't rushed. It was steady, calm, and real. Evan joined in, taking her other hand. "We'll keep showing up," he said, "if you let us." His eyes met hers, steady and sincere. No pressure, no expectation, just the quiet offer of loyalty and care. Claire felt the truth in his words. They weren't asking for anything except her willingness to let them be there. And she was ready. A breeze swept across the deck, ruffling their hair and carrying the scent of the lake. Claire's gaze drifted to the horizon, then back at them. She realized she hadn't felt this safe, this understood in a long time. Last night had begun the healing, but now, in the clarity of morning, she could finally see that she didn't have to face her struggles alone anymore. She had asked once before, and she had been disappointed. This time, they were here, and they had come fully. Without hesitation, she let herself smile. A small, genuine smile that spread warmth through her chest. "Thank you for staying, for coming, for not giving up on me." Mia squeezed her hand, laughing softly. "You think we could ever give up on you?" she said, a hint of teasing in her voice, but it carried love. Evan nodded, and for a moment all three of them stood there in silence, feeling the morning sun on their faces, feeling the bond between them strengthen with each passing second. It wasn't about romance, not in a dramatic sense, but it was something deeper, something emotional, heartfelt, and real. It was a promise that they would face life together, that they would support each other when fear and doubt crept in. Claire realized that this bond, steady, enduring, kind, was worth more than anything she had chased alone. She finally spoke again, her voice softer, reflective. "I've spent so long thinking I had to handle everything by myself. But I don't anymore. I want to live differently. I want to let people be there for me." Her eyes met theirs, and she felt the final pieces of fear dissolve. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. Mia's hands still held hers, warm and steady. Evan's presence remained constant, calm and protective. And in that moment, Claire understood something fundamental. Life didn't have to be faced in solitude. Love, friendship, support, they were all here, patiently waiting, willing to heal the wounds she carried. She didn't have to hide anymore. She didn't have to pretend. The three of them stood together on the deck, watching the sunlight ripple across the lake, the world calm and bright after the storm. Claire felt a surge of hope, a quiet thrill that this weekend was not about running from the past, but stepping into a future where she could lean on people who cared. She had asked once before, and it had failed, but this time they had answered. And that was enough. More than enough. She squeezed their hands, and they squeezed hers back. A simple gesture loaded with meaning. It was an agreement, unspoken yet understood. They would face life's challenges together. No pretending, no hiding, no running. Just presence, care, and the steady comfort of people who refused to leave. Claire inhaled deeply, letting the fresh morning air fill her lungs. letting the sunlight warm her face, letting the moment sink in fully. She had asked for connection, and they had come. And for the first time in a long time, she knew she was exactly where she needed to be.